So Adam, thank you so much for inviting us into your home.
Thanks for having me.
Adam is a dear friend of mine from high school. We go back in time.
Many years.
Many years. Adam has a very wonderful story that we're hoping will resonate with a lot of you guys. So Adam has many success in life. We're going to kind of go through them and, just touch on that. Adam, if you want to just touch on yourself and some of your highlights.
Sure. It's always weird to talk about yourself in that way, but I definitely have been lucky to pursue a lot of different areas in life. I would call myself a performer first. And after college, I was able to pursue the arts and get some traction. And I've been on Broadway and television. I've also worked in some other capacities in wellness. So there's a lot of different areas that I've been lucky to, be in contribution in the world, I think.
Awesome. So you've made it as an actor, which is already super impressive in itself. Tell us a little about what got you there and what were the roads that led you into knowing that this is something that you would like to pursue.
I guess I have made it to a degree, and there's always more to life, and I think as someone who had a lot of different interests, you can get stuck not knowing where to go, even if you have opportunity and options. So I think in college there was a turning moment where I was focusing a lot in performance and in the arts, but I was pursuing other things academically, and there's that kind of fear and trepidation of like, will it work out? Have I made the right decisions? But at the end of the day, I had to look and see where my heart was leading me. And this passion for the arts kind of took over. And I said, I have to give it a try.
And you did.
The journey, it looks so clear now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So I would say there was a period in college where I really had to think about where I was spending my time. And you can worry forever about what's right, but I think at the end of the day you have to listen to what you're being drawn to.
What if what you're being drawn to isn't really practical or attainable? I know that there's this whole stigma around the arts and the inconsistency that goes along with it. What was it that you did to make sure that that wasn't the issue for you?
Yeah, I think that there is always going to be a level of risk in the arts, and in many industries. And nobody's going to tell you what is responsible. You have to do the work to figure that out. And that takes a lot of self-care to be able to discern that. And when I first started out in the industry, I didn't know how to find my balance. And responsibilities were real. Like I had to pay my rent. I moved to the city and I didn't fully know how it was going to work out. I ended up getting a job not in the arts. I was working in PR, and I was working for a high-end fashion company, and it was really trendy and cool, and I was able to kind of trick myself that I was doing something that I was meant to do because it was sexy and cool. And I remember somebody asked me, how are you doing? We caught up, and they were like, you're living your dream. How does it feel? And I remember in that moment, I had been working in this other field in fashion PR for about a year, not auditioning, not doing what I moved to New York for. And I was struck with this accountability, feeling fake. I was I'm not living my dream. It would be so okay to give up a pursuit because you invested in it, you gave it your all, and maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, and you made compromises and lived a fulfilled life. But what I couldn't do in that moment was trade in my dream for something else and call that counterfeit pursuit my dream. So in that moment, I realized, yeah, I have to be responsible, but I also can't live with regret. So you got to take your shots. So at that moment, I realized you have to be responsible, but you also can't live with regret. So you got to take your shots. And I remembered something that my father instilled in me. And he always shared, like, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you pursue your passion, but with excellence, then everything will be taken care of. So I was like, okay, I can hustle, I can do this. I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm gonna trust and believe that things are gonna work out when I produce excellence. And that's what I had to focus on. And one opportunity led to another and another and another. And I acknowledged like how fortunate I was. But I think it did come down to that moment of trusting your gut.
You know, it's really incredible to see the process that you took, and you know, from the outside it seems that everything worked out really well, but I mean, we all know that there's obviously hidden struggles behind everything.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, like, I am so grateful for how things worked out, but it also wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy. I learned that you had to be intentional about your work ethic, about your drive, about keeping relationships, showing up in a place where you're generous of spirit. And I think as a performer who is in charge of how their career goes, you're kind of like your brand. You're protecting the company that is you. And you also need to know how to say no. I think that was one of the most important things. You start out in the industry and you say yes, yes, yes to your opportunities, and that's how you learn and discover. And at a certain moment, you need to take all of that awareness and turn it into discernment for what is not right for you, what doesn't align itself with your values, with your beliefs, with the type of dreams you have. So sometimes your no can be a yes for the future.
You know, with age, that's something I've learned as well, is saying no to things, like you said, that ultimately lead to a yes. You know, if you can kind of just speak a little bit more to that, because I think it's so important for people to understand, you know, what that takes to continue to say no, and knowing that it's actually benefiting your future.
Yeah, it's a delicate place of knowing when to say yes and when to say no. There are going to be a million voices and outside influences telling you what you should be, what you should do, what's right for you, what you're worthy for. But at the end of the day, you have to live with your decisions, and you have to be real with yourself. And that type of like self-work, being authentic in that way, is going to allow you to make the right decision, even if it is painful. But you have to be real with the good, the bad, the ugly, with it all. And I think learning that is one of the biggest lessons I've acknowledged in the journey, but it's one that I'm constantly learning. I'm not finished with being real, being authentic, you know?
Yeah, it's like almost a process that's never ending.
Yeah.
So we talk about all of this hard work that it takes. If you could kind of speak to your experience specifically inside, you know, that performance and arts industry, and, you know, how you use that in your real life.
Yeah, the arts do have a type of niche protocol, and it looks a lot different on the inside. If you're lucky enough to be in a show, that's kind of like your vacation. We always say, like, the work really is everything else. It's the auditioning. It's the constantly working on your craft. It's the getting awareness so that you know how to show up and take care of different holes in your skill set. It's the managing rejection and being able to step forward again. If you go in and have an awesome audition, it can't be about getting the job. It has to be about having concrete goals, because you're gonna audition 100 times before you get something. For all of the things that I've been so fortunate to get, I've gone for and invested and done the work for countless other things. And that is the same story for everyone. So you have to constantly be doing that work to be real with yourself, to allow yourself to know that if I'm investing, I'm going to get a return. So I think when you're able to look at the work you do, show up with worthiness, you'll be seen as worthy. It's like you might not get exactly what you want, but if you're doing the work, you're gonna get results coming down. So you have to keep showing up and being intentional about doing work that activates your purpose. You know, you could do anything. As long as it's activating your purpose, you're gonna be fulfilled.
If you could kind of just touch on that a little bit more, about activating your purpose, and is that different than pursuing a passion?
Yeah, I think that especially in the arts, those two concepts get conflated a lot. Your passion and your purpose. My personal philosophy is that your purpose is that sum, that essence of everything that inspires you, the reason why you're here. It's the why to what you do. I think your passion is a vehicle at which you can activate your purpose. So we can have many different passions in our life. And it's important not to think that our passion is our purpose, because maybe things don't work out for that one thing that you're so passionate about, but you can still live a purposeful life. You can look at all those things that fulfill you, and there's a succinct, concrete reason why it fulfills you, and that's your purpose. One of my passions is in the arts. Another passion I have is in being a conduit of connection and being in contribution, helping others. I can do these things in many different ways, but my purpose is the same, you know? So I think if we have to synthesize that, it's like your purpose is the reason why you're here, and your passions are just the vehicles at which you can do that.
I think that's a really beautiful way to decipher the two. We all have these dreams that we're chasing. We all have different dreams, and we can all relate to that in our own personal way. It's understanding the dreams and understanding, the purpose, so that we can navigate and like you said, it's a vehicle, and drive to the direction of that purpose that we're all looking for.
And I think that's so true in the world and society we live in. We look at our generation, and it's not as clear cut. You're not going to get a good job at one company and stay there for 30 years, retire, and then have a good life from that. It's not that system anymore. You see this kind of portfolio career that people jump from one thing to the next, and they're trying to find fulfillment. But I think if we get down to that authentic work that you have to do, that being real with yourself, you can live a very fulfilled life doing many different things, as long as it inspires that purpose. So you can do a lot of things instead of having to jump from things that don't fulfill you. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
It does. It makes complete sense, especially even with what we're doing here. We talked a little bit before about, this is finding a purpose, finding something. My day job doesn't fulfill me, but finding this and taking another avenue, it's just another step towards doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and I think people don't look at the value of purpose and investing in that enough, and we put maybe more emphasis on identifying ourselves on what we do instead of why we do it. Therefore, we look at the anxiety that is people trying to manage that and always thinking like what's next or what's better, but we never talk about why we're doing things.
Yeah. I mean, I like got goosebumps thinking about that, right? Like, it's not what we're doing, it's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. As a final word of advice, what would you say to someone that is trying to pursue this passion or find this passion?
Yeah, or something that's like trickier.
Yeah.
Or risky. I think that the most important thing I would say is that if there's a dream inside of you, it's been placed there for a reason. And I think that you can only dream the things that are possible for you. Your dreams are different than my dreams, and they're only bubbling up inside of your spirit because they're already real. So that means you have to investigate them. They're a part of you. And I think that's the gift of life, that we get to pursue these things. So if something is bubbling up within inside of you, and you feel like, oh, maybe that's what I should do, like, it's there for a reason, and nobody else is thinking about that same thing. So investigate it, do your work to be responsible, and learn about yourself in it, and it'll open up a million doors.
I think that's beautiful advice. Just thank you so much for taking the time to talking with us. I'm excited to see, what this can do for someone, and hopefully it encourages others to start pursuing their dreams and start pursuing their passion. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.
For the haters, come on, do it now or later. Whoa, yeah. It don't matter what your name is, share your story, we'll be waiting. Go.